So you're drinking your cup, you're supporting genocide. You guys drinking your cups, you're supporting genocide. Block.
Rihanna, you've been a little quiet from your mansion. 2, Drake, sell a Lamborghini and maybe we'll take you off. 3, honorary mention, Hailey Bieber. Blocked.
Colin Kaepernick's protest against racial injustice seems to be gaining traction.
J.K. Rowling, who is famously known for her controversial opinions on transgender ideology. A recent survey from the United States found that majority of millennials think that referring to someone by the wrong gender pronoun should be a criminal offense. Hey guys, welcome to my channel, I'm Zainul. Today I'm going to do what I love doing most, that is, losing my brain cells. It's time to dive into the insane world of wokeism once again. I recently reacted to some woke content, but today I'm going to do a deeper analysis into the inner workings of this social phenomenon that is reshaping our society. In this video, I'll be exploring the different perspectives on wokeism, looking at some common behaviors and practices, the psychological mechanisms behind them, and the broader implications wokeism has on society. Keep in mind that I'm not a psychologist, I'm simply here to share my observations, critiques, and commentary about this emerging ideology. Let's dive in, shall we? Let's start by defining some of these big terms, starting with wokeism. Wokeism is a term often being used to describe a radicalized and extremist approach to social justice issues like race, gender, and class inequality. What does this mean exactly? Well, some scholars have defined radicalization as a process by which individuals develop extremist beliefs and behaviors. Extremist ideologies refer to profound convictions and behaviors that reject the fundamental values of society and universal human rights, often advocating for supremacy based on race, politics, social status, and religion. These behaviors deviate significantly from the norm and can have harmful consequences. Let's take a look at some of these behaviors in greater depth. There are popular practices that are frequently observed within wokeism. The first one we will look at is cancel culture. Cancel culture is the act of completely rejecting and withdrawing support for individuals or entities, usually celebrities and brands, because they have said or done something that is perceived as offensive or wrong. It is a way to express disapproval and exert social pressure. This often unfolds on social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and X, where public opinion is pressured and mobilized against the targeted individual or entity. This usually manifests in widespread boycotts, online shaming, and demands for accountability. A recent example of this is the hashtag Blockout 2024 movement that sparked attention on TikTok. The blockout was orchestrated by pro-Palestine advocates following the recent Met Gala controversy that happened on the 6th of May this year. Many netizens have expressed their rage at celebrities for enjoying the luxury of the Met Gala while staying silent on the crisis that is happening in Gaza on their platforms. As a result, these netizens created a list of celebrities to block with the goal of reducing their shared earnings made through the ads that they profit from social media. Check out some of these TikToks.
Today's blocks of the day are 1, Rihanna, you've been a little quiet from your mansion. 2, Drake, sell a Lamborghini and maybe we'll take you off. And 3, honorary mention, Hailey Bieber, Nepo baby, blocked.
Are you coming to the street?
1, blocked.
Pay off meta, you can't pay off me. Politicians who serve by any means.
Another common behavior that is frequently observed from these groups is the act of boycotting brands due to their affiliations with Israel. Many netizens have filmed themselves going to the brand outlets in real life to condemn and harass consumers who are patronizing those brands.
Guys, I just want you guys to know, by shopping here, you're quite literally supporting genocide. When you're paying to take that drink, your dollars are voting to have children killed in Palestine. I know you guys don't want to hear this. I know you're going to stay on your computer and stay deaf, dumb, and blind, but that's what's happening. So you're drinking your cup, you're supporting genocide. You guys drinking your cups, you're supporting genocide.
So why is this happening? These behaviors can be explained by a common phenomenon within the field of social psychology known as groupthink. Founded by psychologist Irving Janis, groupthink is when a group prioritizes consensus over individual judgment, often leading to a collective failure to critically evaluate information and make informed decisions. It drives individuals to conform to the dominant voices of the group due to the fear of being ridiculed for dissenting views. Because of this, individuals tend to assume that the group's beliefs are correct and justified, leading to a suppression in their individual doubts to maintain the peace rather than disrupt the group's uniformity. Cancel culture, with its emphasis on public shaming and collective condemnation, can foster a groupthink mentality. In the context of the blockout, there is a shared consensus to block celebrities and boycott brands that are deemed pro-Israel and go against their unified movement. Because the consensus is strong and powerful, these activists will be inclined to view all their practices as justified without constructive discussions. From a cognitive perspective, the cancel culture practices in the blockout can be explained by a cognitive bias known as confirmation bias. This bias is a tendency to look for, interpret, and remember information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs, leading to an ignorance to contradictory evidence. Confirmation bias can influence pro-Palestine advocates to only seek out information that confirms their beliefs about Israel and its supporters. They may interpret celebrity statements and brand actions through a biased lens, assuming pro-Israel sentiments without nuance or the fact that remaining neutral does not equate to supporting genocide. They may also choose to only highlight instances of celebrities and brands that support their beliefs while ignoring evidence that might imply otherwise. Hence, this bias also leads to the outcome of pressuring the public to block celebrities and boycott those brands, creating a mob mentality. Moving on, another popular practice that has emerged recently is problematic labeling, which involves assigning stigmatizing labels to individuals, groups, or ideas based on subjective judgment without understanding the complexity of an issue or the individual's perspective. This builds on the labeling theory founded by sociologist Howard Becker, which demonstrated how external judgment and labels can influence and shape individual identity and social perception. Problematic labeling takes this a step further by attaching negative labels without nuanced consideration. This can manifest through behaviors like labeling someone as toxic or hateful simply for holding a different opinion. In fact, the term toxic has become a buzzword in today's generation. As highlighted in an article from the Wall Street Journal, this phenomenon of toxic labeling has become a popular trend to describe behaviors, relationships, and individuals, often being used without a clear understanding of its original meaning or context. A prime example of this is the huge controversy surrounding J.K. Rowling, who is famously known for her controversial opinions on transgender ideology. As reported in this article from Glamour, Rowling had been publicly labeled as a transphobe based on her comments about gender identity and feminism. This controversy started back in 2017 when Rowling had liked a tweet that is perceived to be criticizing the trans movement, specifically towards trans women. She then went on to make more controversial tweets about women's experiences and safety. Here's a popular one where she talks about the new phrase people who menstruate, making commentary about the constant need to change the definition of women in today's world. Here's a separate article outlining the history of Rowling's tweets in the past. I'll link it down in the description box below if you want to check it out. This controversy has led to many online users getting upset at Rowling's perceived attempt to invalidate transgender identities and perpetuate harmful stereotypes. Many began to publicly label Rowling as a TERF, which stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. It has gotten to the point where many netizens have expressed the need to make the act of misgendering a crime. A recent survey from the United States found that majority of millennials think that referring to someone by the wrong gender pronoun should be a criminal offense. In fact, misgendering has been legislated under the Hate Crime and Public Order Act in Scotland this year. This has generated worldwide concerns about the implications on free speech. From a psychological perspective, these transphobic labels towards Rowling can be influenced by self-righteousness, a bias within the field of moral psychology that describes the tendency to perceive our ideas and behaviors as morally better than others. There was a study that was conducted by a few researchers to understand how people judge themselves morally, and the results show that the participants tend to believe that they are less evil than others. They are also less likely to attribute negative characteristics from their own behaviors than from others. A reason why this happens is because we evaluate ourselves through an inside perspective while viewing others through an outside perspective. Hence, we are more likely to attribute negative characteristics and intentions from the behaviors of others. This is also known as the fundamental attribution error, which causes us to assume a person's actions depending on what kind of person they are and how they behave. It is easy to recognize individuals who fall into this bias. Here are a few prominent traits. Firstly, they tend to overemphasize their beliefs in being right. Self-righteous individuals often place their personal feelings above objective facts, even when presented with logical arguments and evidence. Their strong convictions in their beliefs and resistance to change may cause them to dismiss any disagreement on issues that they feel strongly for. In the context of Rowling's tweets, online users may hastily apply those transphobic labels to reinforce their beliefs in being right without understanding the complexity of the issue. Just because Rowling's tweets did not align with their moral definition of what it means to be trans-inclusive, it doesn't mean that Rowling is a transphobe. Another trait that self-righteous individuals typically exhibit is a superiority complex, which is a defense mechanism that in reality is just to compensate for their underlying inferiority complex. Building on the previous trait, these individuals are under the belief that they are always right, pedestalizing themselves as morally superior. When online users label Rowling as a transphobe, they fall into this trap of thinking where they feel that they are above her, viewing any disagreement as wrong or inferior. This can create a more superficial evaluation of others. The final trait takes moral superiority to the next level, that is the craving for social approval. Self-righteous individuals often require recognition and validation from others to fulfill their self-worth and self-image. The act of labeling Rowling as a transphobe might be perceived as socially desirable to others who share like-minded views. This is also related to the concept of groupthink that I mentioned earlier. This then results in users being praised and admired by others, further fueling their moral superiority complex. The constant need for external validation from others due to their groupthink mentality may hinder them from expressing their true selves. Alright, now that we have looked at some popular woke practices and what drives them, let's delve into the repercussions that they have on our world today. At the individual level, the rise of these woke practices can have a devastating effect on our mental health. The constant pressure to conform and the fear of being cancelled or labeled creates a toxic environment for forcing individuals to hide their true beliefs and act in a way that is socially acceptable. This is also known as political correctness, which is the act of avoiding language and actions that could be offensive to others, usually relating to sex, gender, and race. This can manifest through behaviors like monitoring situations carefully, aligning with certain expectations, and suppressing certain words or behaviors for the purpose of being sensitive and tolerant towards others. A new research study has shown that political correctness can lead to cognitive exhaustion, specifically mental fatigue and depletion. The researchers noted that despite political correctness being important in workplaces, it may potentially act as a double-edged sword for employees due to the mental exhaustion of being too cautious all the time. The researchers described this sense of hypervigilance as a feeling of walking on eggshells, where individuals are constantly on guard and hesitant to share their thoughts. When we feel forced to hide our true beliefs, we may experience a sense of isolation and disconnection from others. This can lead to feelings of loneliness, low self-esteem, and a lack of purpose in life. In the long term, it can have dire consequences like decreased productivity in workplaces and overall decline in our quality of life. The study's findings are noteworthy as it highlights the psychological cost of constantly navigating through politically correct language and behaviors. At the community level, the woke movement's emphasis on groupthink mentality and conformity has led to a diminished diversity of thought, where differing views and meaningful conversations are discouraged. This has resulted in a growing divide in our society, creating an us versus them mentality that pits us against each other and further polarizes us. Research has shown that social media can amplify this mentality through induced polarization. Social media can create echo chambers, which refer to situations where online users consume content and engage in discourse that predominantly supports the same point of views that they hold and believe in. This is a manifestation of confirmation bias, which I have discussed previously as a driving mechanism for some of these radical woke practices that we see on social media today. Echo chambers can result in excluding alternative perspectives and lacking common ground with others. The World Economic Forum had warned about the devastating effects of this polarization, that is, the skyrocketing of digital wildfires that are spreading globally, as we have clearly seen in the Blockout earlier. While wokeism's focus on social justice issues is important, it is often being used to justify silencing dissenting voices and labeling those who disagree with us as the oppressors. This stifling of free speech and open discourse has contributed to the increasing polarization as people are engaging in their own echo chambers and are becoming more entrenched in their views. In the long term, this can lead to a breakdown in community cohesion, increased social unrest, and even violence as we become more focused on our differences rather than our shared humanity. Finally, on a wider macrosystem scale, wokeism has given a rise to a new phenomenon known as woke capitalism. This term was coined by political analyst and author Ross Douthat, who defined it as the practice of companies signaling their support for progressive causes in order to maintain their influence in society. We see this happening everywhere today, where companies are jumping on the bandwagon to support social movements in order to boost their brand image. Douthat argued that this is hypocrisy at play, claiming that these big corporations are only doing this for financial gain. A separate report warned that this might be a cynical marketing technique that prioritizes profit over genuine progress. A prime example of this is Nike's Dream Crazy campaign. In 2018, Nike featured Colin Kaepernick, a former NFL player who was known for kneeling on the ground during the national anthem to protest against racial injustice.
Colin Kaepernick's protest against racial injustice seems to be gaining traction.
The San Francisco 49ers quarterback knelt during the national anthem at the Niners LA Rams game on Monday night. Teammate Eric Reed joined him, and players on both teams raised fists in solidarity.
The campaign did bring some success, with Nike's Instagram numbers spiking up and even winning an Emmy for Best Commercial. However, the brand faced backlash, which sparked a nationwide controversy on the appropriateness of bringing politics onto the field. Some critics argued that Nike's history of labor exploitation and lack of diversity undermined the message of the campaign. Nike's campaign is one of many case examples that illustrates woke capitalism's flaw of attempting to appear supportive of social movements just for external benefits. We see this happening on social media as well, where people are constantly jumping onto different social movements as they seem trendy and may entice huge engagement. And with that, this concludes our deep dive into wokeism. Wow, that was a lot. Let's do a quick recap to summarize what we just talked about. Our analysis has revealed the difficult complexities behind this emerging ideology. We have taken a closer look at some popular woke practices like cancel culture and toxic labeling, exploring how certain biases like groupthink, confirmation bias, and self-righteousness can fuel our motivations to engage in them. This can then have lasting consequences like worsened mental health due to the suppression of individual thoughts, decreased social cohesion due to the increasing polarization in our views, and the exploitation of genuine social causes through woke capitalism. As we navigate through these difficult issues, it's important to believe in our own convictions, but to also leave some room for open discourse and views that might deviate from ours. We may disagree, and that's okay. That's why these conversations are happening. If there is one message that I want to bring out from this video, is to embrace nuance and don't be afraid to disagree. That's what makes us humans. But anyways, thanks for watching. As always, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't, and comment down below what you think about this video and whether you enjoy this kind of format where I do deep dives into current issues today. Bye!